back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final,
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, June 19th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about Matt Ryan and Arthur Blank. They will be inducted into the Falcons Ring of Honor, so I'll get into that. Then in the second part of the show, I will continue my schedule breakdowns. Today we will be going through the Baltimore Ravens schedule, so I'll give you my early win-loss predictions for them. Then in the third part of the show, we will talk about Austin Ekeler and why he left the Chargers and signed with the Commanders, so we'll get into that. Then in the fourth part of the show, we'll talk about a GM commenting on Tua Tagovailoa and his contract situation, how the Dolphins should have Tua play out his current contract instead of giving Tua this big 50, because he's going to make, what Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow are making, or close to that. They're making $55 million a year. So an anonymous GM said the Dolphins should have Tua play out the contract. So I'll get into that and give you my thoughts on that. And then the final part of the show, we'll talk about Bryce Young and him kind of just talking about how last year went and now how he's looking to bounce back here in year two with the Panthers for the 2024 season. So that's the rundown for the show. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Matt Ryan and Arthur Blank are going to be inducted into the Falcons Ring of Honor. So Arthur Blank, of course, is the owner of the Atlanta Falcons. So he purchased the team in 2002, has made the playoffs 8 times. The Falcons have made the playoffs 8 times while he's been the owner from 2002. Between 2002 and 2017, they made the playoffs 8 times. One Super Bowl appearance, that was back in 2016, of course, against the Patriots. And the team value has gone up from $545 million in 2002 to $4.7 billion as of August of 2023. So that's impressive. And if he ends up selling the team at some point, well, it's going to cost even more, of course. And then with Matt Ryan, he was the 3rd overall pick in the 2008 NFL Draft. He led the Falcons to an 11-5 season in his rookie year and a playoff appearance, earning Offensive Rookie of the Year honors. Made the playoffs 6 times. Won MVP back in 2016. They got the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl appearance. He was an Offensive Player of the Year, first team All-Pro, 69.9% completion percentage, nearly 5,000 yards passing, 38 touchdowns. They did make the playoffs the following season, but they did lose to the Eagles in the divisional round. And his career stats, well, his final season with Atlanta, that was back in 2021. Completion percentage is 67%, nearly 4,000 yards passing and 20 touchdowns. His career stats with the Falcons, completion percentage of 65.5%, nearly 60,000 yards, 59 1,735 passing yards, and 367 touchdowns. And his record as a starter, 124 and 108. So, yeah. I mean, I think it's well-deserved for both of these guys. Now, I know you would say, when you look at Matt Ryan and his career as a whole, you're probably like, well, you're kind of hoping for more out of him. And I know when he announced his retirement, I did a segment on that. I think it was like a couple of months ago. I forget when exactly it was, but I kind of just talked about how I think I kind of touched upon the same thing. How, yeah, I mean, there was a couple times where they were the number 1 seed, the Falcons, and they lost to the Packers, and the year Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl, and they also lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. They blew that lead. And then they made it to the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and then, of course, we all know what happened. And it's unfortunate for Matt Ryan that Super Bowl loss is always going to be a part of him. And I think even with that Super Bowl loss, I think he had a solid career. And I did say I felt like he could make the Hall of Fame, but I know that day, I believe, when the day I did the show about him retiring, we talked about it in our production meeting, and I think the majority of people said he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Now, Tommy, who's the host of the College Football Podcast, he said he does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but he was being biased. There was some bias there. But, yeah, I feel like him not having a Super Bowl, that does really hurt his chances of getting into the Hall of Fame. But either way, he does, of course, deserve to be in the Falcons Ring of Honor. I think that's something that can be universally agreed upon. He had a lot of good years with the Falcons. And, towards the end, yeah, it wasn't how I think he hoped it would be. The Falcons, weren't very good anymore. And he tried to revitalize his career in Indianapolis, and that didn't go well either. But, yeah, I mean, you were kind of hoping for a better ending for Matt Ryan and the Falcons, but that just never happened. So, but either way, I mean, he deserves this. Like I said, had a lot of good years with the Falcons. It's just, yeah, I mean, they came up short. But, both of these guys definitely deserve it. The contributions that they've made to this organization. And Arthur Blank, now with this current team, let's see if they can get it done. Now, I don't necessarily think so. I think this team is very talented. I think that you look at them as the favorites in the NFC South, in my opinion. But I think in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to the NFC, I don't think they are a team that can make it to the Super Bowl and go far in the playoffs. Well, go far in the playoffs and then try to get to a Super Bowl. Because I just think there's other teams in the conference that are better. That's really what it comes down to. And Kirk Cousins, as much as he, puts up solid numbers and, he was on his way to having another solid year last year before he got hurt, Kirk Cousins doesn't take you far in the playoffs. The furthest he's gone is the second round. And I think that's really as far as the Falcons are going to go. But that doesn't mean that they can't go out there and surprise people, because they do have a lot of talent on this team. And, we'll see what ends up happening once Kirk Cousins leaves or retires, and we get to see Michael Penix and what, if he's actually the long-term answer at quarterback. But that's down the line. And the Falcons are hoping they don't see him within the 4 years of Kirk Cousins' contract. But yeah, this could be the best Falcons team that we've seen in a while. Because, the last time they made the playoffs, I think, it was 2017 when they lost to the Eagles. It's been a long time. And like I was saying with Matt Ryan, it didn't end how he hoped it would in Atlanta. There was some bad years, and eventually they moved off of him. But the Falcons are looking to get back to the postseason, and we'll see what happens. And I think they are a team that can make the postseason. But like I said, I don't really think they're going to go that far. I know this is way in advance, but that's just my opinion. But they could surprise me. They could surprise people. They definitely could. So, but I kind of just wanted to talk about the current state of the Falcons with Arthur Blank because, look, they have a good team. I think defensively that's something to keep an eye on. See how the defense does. Offensively, I'm excited to see what these playmakers can do now with Kirk Cousins, who does put up good numbers. So we'll have to wait and see. But, congratulations to both of these guys. Like I said, they really deserve it, being inducted into the Falcons Ring of Honor. And I think in October is when the actual, ceremony is going to be. Yeah, so the induction date is October 3rd. So, Falcons fans will definitely be excited for that. And, like I said, congratulations to them. They both deserve it. So, let me know what you guys think, though. What was your favorite moment from Matt Ryan's career? And what are your expectations for the Falcons going into the 2024 season? I think when I went over their schedule, I had them winning about 10 games. I think that's fair. But Kirk Cousins is coming off of a significant injury. So we'll see how he bounces back from that. I said I think he's going to do fine, but only time will tell. So we're going to take our first break of the show here. And then when we come back, we are going to continue our schedule breakdowns. Today we will be doing the Baltimore Ravens schedule. So that is what we will break down when we come back from our first break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to continue our schedule breakdowns. Today, we will be covering the Baltimore Ravens schedule. So we're going to be in the AFC North for the next few days and then into Monday as well. So let's get into the Ravens schedule. So the Ravens, of course, they made it to the AFC Championship game last year, and they did lose a tight game to the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're looking to finally break through and get to a Super Bowl. And they did bring in Derrick Henry, of course, added him to the backfield. So that's one of the more intriguing things about this upcoming season is seeing both Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the same backfield. I think that's going to be very exciting to watch. This team is still very good, and I think if they stay healthy, and I think that was the key last year also, I think the biggest key last year was Lamar Jackson staying healthy, because that's what's plagued the Ravens the last couple of seasons. I know they dealt with injuries to their backfield, of course, with J.K. Dobbins and Keaton Mitchell getting hurt, but, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, those guys, they did a nice job, at least, carrying the workload there. And, of course, you got Lamar Jackson, who could still carry the football himself, take off and run with it. So, but, yeah, I mean, that was I think the biggest key last year was Lamar Jackson staying healthy. Because if he's not healthy, well, it's kind of what I've talked about with Joe Burrow. The Ravens are not going to go anywhere. Now, they did still make the playoffs, and Tyler Huntley had to start a playoff game the year before. But, yeah, I mean, you're not going to go far with Tyler Huntley. And actually, they could have beaten the Bengals. They had a chance to, but they had that fumble at the goal line, and Sam Hubbard ran it back for a touchdown. So, but this is the Ravens' schedule here. So right off the bat, we get an AFC Championship game rematch. And it's a great game to start off the year. It really is. In Arrowhead, and the Ravens haven't been there in quite a while. I think the last time they were there was 2019. So it's been a while. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a close game. Now, the Chiefs did lose the home opener last year against the Lions. So, it's not like the Chiefs, don't drop games at Arrowhead. They do. And we get to see Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson right off the bat. So we'll see, what kind of game Derrick Henry can have against this Chiefs defense. That was good last year. That was kind of the strength of the team last year. Until they got to the playoffs and, they remembered, oh yeah, that's right. We are the receivers just started catching passes and Travis Kelce looked like himself. But yeah, this is going to be a close game in my opinion. I'm still leaning towards the Chiefs. I mean, I think the Ravens are going to win a ton of games this year, but I'm leaning towards the Chiefs in a close game. So the Ravens, in my opinion, are going to start off 0-1. But then I feel like they're going to rattle off some wins here. Against the Raiders with Gardner Minshew. Now, another thing is Gardner Minshew with the Colts last year went into Baltimore. They won that game. That was in overtime. Now, it's a different team, of course, but I'm just saying, okay? But I don't see the Ravens starting off 0-2. So, and they're at home, so I'm going to say the Ravens, they get back on track, and they win this game here, even their record at 1-1. Then they go to Dallas. They go to Jerry World. Cowboys got a high-powered offense, and, we've talked about them a lot. Contract situations with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I think the last time these two teams met, I think, was during the COVID season, and that was when Andy Dalton was starting. I mean, this could be a good game. I think the Ravens are the better team here, even with the Cowboys being at home. I think the Cowboys are going to put up points, but I just think the Ravens are the better team here. And I'm going to say that I think it could be close, but I think the Ravens get this one here. So they improve to 2-1 on the season. Then we got an interesting game in week 4. So we have the Bills and the Ravens. And the Bills, it's going to be a little different this year because they made a lot of changes. It's a new receiving core, basically. And they did play during I think the last time they played was, the 22 season? And the Bills had a comeback win there. I think, and this is a Sunday Night Football matchup too. I think the Ravens being at home, yeah, I mean, toss up, but I think I would still lean towards the Ravens here. Now, with the Bengals, I think they're going to split with the Bengals. I think they're going to split. If Joe Burrow's healthy, I think they'll split. So I'm going to say they lose. Now, listen, they won in Cincinnati last year. I'm going to say, either way, I think they're going to get a split, one way or another. Commanders in Week 6 is interesting. Rookie quarterback, Jane Daniels coming in. Curious to see how he's going to be. Because I really didn't have the Commanders winning a lot of games. But I think the Ravens, they should win this game here. So I'm going to take them. Then you got the Buccaneers. Now you got back-to-back road games. You're in Tampa. I think the Ravens should win that. Now, with the Browns, it's interesting. Because the Browns did beat them in Baltimore last year. That was with Deshaun Watson starting at quarterback. And the Ravens won in Cleveland, but that was with DTR starting at quarterback. So, I mean, I'd probably... I'm going to say the Ravens, the Ravens are going to win at least one game. I feel like they're going to split with the Browns. I honestly, because the division is so tough, I feel like the teams are going to split with each other. I mean, there might be some sweeps, but I think you're going to see some splits. So I'm going to say the Browns take one, the Ravens take one. I think they beat the Broncos. Like I said, they got the Bengals in Week 10. I said they'd split with the Bengals. I think they're going to split with the Steelers too. Because for some reason, the Steelers, they find a way to beat the Ravens. Now, I know the last week of the regular season, the Ravens sat their starters. So I don't really count that, even though that did help the Steelers make the playoffs. But, earlier in the season, they won that game in Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers are going to find a way and, beat the Ravens at least once. So I have the Ravens splitting with every divisional opponent. Then they're at the Chargers Week 12. They played there on a Sunday night last year. And, the Ravens won that. It was 13-10, and then Zay Flowers picked up that first down, and he took it to the house, which hurt me in my spread pool. I wasn't very happy about that. We'll see how the Chargers are. I mean, they're going to be better with Harbaugh, but I think I said this on a previous show. I think they're still kind of I think they could be a sneaky good team this year because, you have the quarterback, you got the head coach. I think the defense could be improved, but I'm going to take John over Jim in this game. So I'm going to say the Ravens win that. Eagles come to town. That's going to be a tough game. That is going to be a tough game. I don't know. I don't know. That one is a toss up for me. I mean, the Ravens are at home. I'm going to say the Ravens lose that one. Then they get back on track. I think they beat the Giants. Now, the Giants did beat them a couple years ago. But this is a better Ravens team. So I think the Ravens win there. Like I said, they split with the Steelers. I'm going to say they do lose to the Texans. I think the Texans get their revenge. And they win there. And then, like I said, they split with the Browns. So now, let's see. So I had them losing to the Chiefs. I have them splitting with their divisional opponents. I have them losing to the Texans. So that's 5 losses right there. So 12-5. Yeah, I mean, I think that's now what they go last year. They went 13-4 last year. Just want to double check. Yeah, I mean, I think 12-13 wins. That's fair. I mean, maybe they do sweep one of their divisional opponents. I don't know. I just think because the division is so tough, and like if you look at the Steelers, like yeah, you should be like, oh, the Ravens should sweep the Steelers, but for some reason, they're never able to do that, or at least the last couple of years they haven't been able to do that. So I'm gonna say 12-5. I think that's fair. I just want to double check because I think they went 13-4 they went 13-4 last year. So I think they could still get to 13 wins, but I said 12. So yeah, 12-13 wins for the Ravens. I think that is fair. Now, I mean, you look at their schedule from, I guess, week 10 on. I mean, other than like the Giants, I mean, there's tough games in there. They play against their divisional opponents. They play against, I mean, I think the Chargers are going to be tough to beat, but I think they should win that still. You got the Eagles. I mean, the Steelers, though, when we get to the Steelers schedule from week 11 on, I mean, look, they play the Ravens twice, but their schedule is very difficult towards the second half of the season. But yeah, I mean, the Ravens, their schedule is tough. Outside of the Giants, I think the Giants, they should win with ease, but that's just me. So, but let me know what you guys think about the Steelers, the Ravens schedule. How many games do you think the Ravens are going to win? Like I said, I think about 12, 13 wins, so same as last year. That's my opinion on that. And we'll see. Does Derrick Henry get 2,000 yards again? Probably not, but like I said, that's something that I'm really excited for, is watching him and Lamar Jackson in the same backfield. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about another running back. We will talk about Austin Ekeler, him talking about leaving the Chargers and why, he ended up going to the Commanders as well. So, we'll get into all that when we come back from our second break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about Austin Ekeler and, him kind of discussing why he left the Chargers. So we'll get into that. So he was on the Up and Adams show. So another shout out to Kay Adams, who does a great job, of course, in the NFL community. And this is what he had to say on leaving the Chargers. So he said, I think you can kind of see how they've been building the team so far this offseason. They went out and drafted a tackle first round. They brought in some bigger backs over from Baltimore. So it's like, hey, they want a guy that can hand the ball off to 300 times a year. And look, I haven't had that capacity to do that. That's not my game. That's not how Austin Eckler is going to be the best on the field. So there was a misalignment there, which no harm, no foul. I'm going to go find somewhere else where Austin can be the best version of myself out there. So, yeah, he was talking in the third person there. But, yeah, so he's joining a Commanders team that, you have Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. And, he's going to be involved, how he typically is, and that's in the passing game. And, you pair him up with Brian Robinson Jr., which I think could be a nice duo that they have there. But I don't expect, because Austin Eckler, with the Chargers, I mean, he was very productive for them for many years. But I think he's kind of on that downward trajectory. So he's not going to have the kind of workload that he had with the Chargers because, yeah, I mean, even in like fantasy, you see, how his numbers were in fantasy. I mean, the guy was really good for that. But yeah, I mean, I kind of understand that. That isn't really Austin Eckler's game. I mean, when you think about him, he's more of a pass catcher. And what Jim Harbaugh is emphasizing is running the football. And they are going to pound the rock. And that's why they went out. They signed Gus Edwards and they signed J.K. Dobbins. They also drafted another running back as well. So, yeah, they're going to run the football. And Austin Eckler, like I said, is more accustomed to being involved in the passing game. Not somebody that, you're going to hand the ball, like he said, hand the ball off 300 times a season. It's just not going to happen. But, yeah, I mean, I think Washington, I thought it was an interesting spot for him. Because right now, I mean, I thought maybe he figured he wants to go to a contender, but, I don't know what kind of offers he was getting. So, maybe he just kind of figured, yeah, this is the best offer I'm getting, or maybe he likes the scheme that Washington is gonna run. So, I don't really know what the exact reasoning was behind signing with Washington, but yeah, I mean, I don't think he's not gonna be the guy when it comes to the running back position because you got Brian Robinson Jr. there as well. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it could be an interesting duo. But I mean, he said, like he said, no harm, no foul. I mean, there's no, bad blood between him and the Chargers. But let's kind of take a look back at Austin Eckler's stats. Now, he dealt with some injuries. I mean, well, everybody on the Chargers last year dealt with injuries between Herbert and Keenan Allen getting hurt late in the season and Mike Williams getting hurt. Yeah, it was a rough year for the Chargers, and they're hoping to bounce back from that. But yeah, Austin Eckler last year, he did play in 14 games. He had 5 touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns. So these are his rushing stats. I mean, even in 21 and 22, he did have over 900 yards rushing, 911 yards in 2021 and 915 in 2022. So he had he had 13 rushing touchdowns in 22 and 12 in 21. And I mean, when he first got there, they also had Melvin Gordon as well. So, it was kind of him and Melvin Gordon as a duo, and then he became the main guy. And then, you go back to, and then you look at his receiving stats. 2019, he had 993 receiving yards. And that was with Phillip Rivers, still a quarterback. He had 8 receiving touchdowns that season. He had 647 yards receiving in 2021, 8 receiving touchdowns. So, yeah, in 2021, he had 20 total touchdowns. And then in 22, he had 18 total touchdowns. And he had 722 receiving yards. Last year, he had 436 receiving yards. He still averaged 8.5 yards. And he had 1 receiving touchdown. But, yeah, I'm curious to see how he's going to be with the Commanders. They have a rookie quarterback now. So, I think having a veteran like Eckler there, I think that'll be beneficial for him. for Jaden Daniels. And also, I know they went out and they signed Zach Ertz as well, another veteran. So, yeah, I mean, to have some a veteran presence there for a rookie quarterback, I think that's, you want to have that. Now, I think Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler have seen better days. I think their better days are kind of behind them. I mean, I still think Eckler's got a little bit left in the tank. Ertz has kind of dealt with injuries, and I don't know. He's not. I mean, Ertz is not the same tight end he was in Philly. I mean, I think he was still decent with the Cardinals. I don't know what kind of role he's going to have. I don't know how effective he's going to be, but like I said, I think having veteran presence there is good for the rookie, and you got Terry McLaurin as well. Who's hoping that Jaden Daniels is the guy, because if you remember from last year, the quote McLaurin said that he's running, he ran a lot of cardio or something. He said something along the lines of that. So, but yeah, I'm interested to see how Eckler is used in this offense. I mean, I think he's going to be on the field a lot, but he's going to be a pass catcher. That's what he is. So, and I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to adapt to his strengths, and he's gonna. We'll see what he could do. And like I said, he's got a rookie quarterback that he's gonna be playing with, so that's gonna be interesting. And it's not like he hasn't played with rookie quarterbacks. I mean, he played with Justin Herbert, and that seemed to work out okay when Herbert was a rookie. So, yeah, like I said, with the Commanders, they're an interesting team because I don't really know what to expect, because they did make a lot of moves this offseason, but I don't know. For me, I didn't really look at them as like, okay, this team is going to be significantly better. But you know what? Maybe they are better. I mean, last year they went 4-13. I didn't really have them winning a lot of games when I did their schedule. But if Jaden Daniels turns out to be the guy, and he plays really well his rookie season, then you know what? Maybe they do get more wins than they do last year. I mean, I know some people think maybe they could finish over the Cowboys in the division, which I kind of think is a little ridiculous. I think the Cowboys are the number 2 team in the division, but we'll have to wait and see. So, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it when talking about Austin Eckler and the Commanders. And yeah, it's just, and then you look at from the Chargers perspective, again, I mean, it's completely different offense. All those guys that we've seen play with Justin Herbert, I mean, most of them are gone. Keenan Allen's gone, Mike Williams is gone, Eckler's gone. Not that Gerald Everett was a big name, but, he's also not there either. It's a completely different offense. And, I said the Chargers, they're going to be a team that's going to want to run the football. I mean, I don't think, look, Justin Herbert, they're going to have him air it out. And Herbert's going to put up good numbers. But, I think they're going to want to also have a balanced offense, and I think they can have that. If they can run the football effectively, that helps the passing game. It goes hand in hand. And I don't think Justin Herbert's a guy that you're just going to be like, all right, we're going to take the ball out of your hands and you're just going to hand it off. Now, if the running game, of course, is working and a team can't stop the run, well, yeah, then you just keep handing it off, because why are you going to stop? I mean, go back to the championship game with the Niners and the Packers, and Raheem Mostert ran the ball for 200 yards. They just kept running it. But you got a quarterback in Justin Herbert where it's like, you don't need to take the ball out of his hands. He can make some really good throws. He's a guy that, is going to, like I said, going to put up good numbers. Now, it's going to be different because you got a young receiving core that, there's going to be some growing pains. They drafted some receivers. You still got Joshua Palmer there. Quinn Johnston, they're hoping for a better year out of him in his second year. So it's going to be different without, the other guys that I just mentioned, including Eckler. So I feel like Eckler leaving was probably like I thought they should have kept Keenan Allen. They should have figured out a way to keep him. I feel like Eckler they'll be fine without. Mike Williams, same thing. But, yeah, Keenan Allen, I felt like they should have tried to do better and keep him. But it was tough. So, I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. So, but let me know what you guys think about what Austin Eckler had to say. How do you think he's going to do in Washington? Like I said, I feel like his better days are kind of behind him. I mean, I still think, he could be somewhat impactful with the Commanders in the passing game. He's not going to be the guy. They got other running backs there, like I said, Brian Robinson Jr. So, like I said, that was an interesting spot for him. So we'll see how he does. And how do you think are the Chargers going to miss Austin Eckler, or do you think they're going to be fine with basically the Ravens' backfield? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our next break. When we come back, we will talk about Tua Tagovailoa. Is he worth a $55 million extension if he does indeed get that? But we'll also talk about what an anonymous GM had to say on Tua, how the Dolphins should handle his contract situation. So we'll get into that when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa, some things regarding his contract situation. Is he worth a $55 million extension, as well as just some comments made by a GM talking to Tom Pelissero. So, now this is what the GM had to say. Now, again, anonymous. So, this was kind of like their recommendation as to how the Dolphins should handle Tua's contract situation. So, this is what Pelissero had to say. He said, I talked to a GM from a different team this morning, and he was on the Rich Eisen show. What he said was, I would let Tua play it out. The GM who called me this morning was saying, you can't do a deal at that number. It's gone too far. Now, we've seen Trevor Lawrence get a $55 million contract. And do I think Trevor Lawrence deserved that kind of money and being paid the same amount of money as Joe Burrow? No, not necessarily. Honestly, I think any quarterback really that's making that kind of money. Well, I mean, it depends on who it is, but listen, Patrick Mahomes is kind of the standard. And, any quarterback making that kind of money, that's not him. You're kind of just like, yeah, they don't really deserve it. But I did say earlier in the week that, it's usually, nowadays when you're paying a quarterback, it's usually going to be an overpay. So, Pelissero continued. He said, now you have to look at this. If you're Tua's agent and say $55 million is the floor, and we want to beat that because Trevor Lawrence statistically has not done what Tua's done over the past couple of years, while adding that $55 million is the baseline for the quarterback deals to get done now. Yeah, I mean, if the Dolphins gave him a contract that exceeds Trevor Lawrence's contract, that's even more of an overpay. So I do kind of agree with what the GM had to say, that the Dolphins should let Tua just play out this contract. Now, Tua had a good year last year, and it's kind of funny because over the weekend I did have a debate with my friend over Tua. Now, I was kind of playful in the argument. I really wasn't taking it that seriously. But I was basically on the side of, Tua's not as good as, his numbers say. But Tua was number 1 in passing yards last year, and he stayed relatively healthy. The Dolphins did make the playoffs, and he did have a good year. However, I don't think that Tua is the long-term answer. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think there is a lot left to be desired. I feel like the guys that he has around him, they elevate him, as opposed to, you want to have a quarterback that does the opposite. You want a quarterback that's going to elevate his weapons, not the other way around. Because you're not going to win a Super Bowl that way. And you could say that about Brock Purdy with the 49ers, because, I mean, look at the supporting cast that he has. Now, 49ers did come close to winning a Super Bowl, but yeah, you want to have, now it's very hard to get these quarterbacks. You look at Patrick Mahomes and what he has had to work with at times. You want that quarterback. Now, like I said, it's very hard to get that. I think, now, comparing Tua Tagovailoa to, Patrick Mahomes, it's not fair to Tua. But I think in the grand scheme of things, what I'm trying to say is, for me, I just don't believe that Tua is the long-term answer. And I think he did have a good year. And he stayed healthy. And I think all of us, we can agree that we were very happy about that he was able to stay healthy. Because the year before that, you're thinking his career's in jeopardy because of these concussions. And he was still able to go out there last year, played every game, and he played well. But I've brought this up. The Dolphins beat only one team last year with a winning record, and that was the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys with Dak, I mean, Dak's another guy. I feel like the guys around him elevate him. He doesn't elevate them. And that's why the Cowboys have kind of been in the same situation where they haven't gotten past the second round. Because, again, the Dolphins, they lost to the Chiefs twice. You lost to the Ravens. You lost to the Bills twice. You got to beat these better teams if you're going to want to go far, if you're going to want to win a playoff game. Because, Mike McDaniel's trying to motivate this team and say, hey, we need to win a playoff game. It's been 24 years since the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game. This needs to end. He's trying to remind them, this is how long it's been. And I think, it's going to be tough. Can the Dolphins end that streak? I think they can. Because they have the talent. But I just don't know. The quarterback is a concern of mine. And I know we get all excited when we watch this Dolphins offense and, Tua hitting Tyreek down the field and or hitting him for a quick pass that he, will take 75 yards to the house. Same thing with Jalen Waddle. The Dolphins are a very fun team to watch. And when they're clicking, it's like I said, it's a lot of fun to watch. But, a lot of that was against inferior teams. And I need to see Tua go out there this year and do it against good teams and play well against good teams, because he just did not do that last year. And the Dolphins, they had a chance to get the number 2 seed in the division and host a playoff game. But they choked that away. Lost to the Ravens, got blown out by the Ravens, and then, you lose to the Bills. You lose a close game to the Bills in the final week of the regular season, and you end up playing against the Chiefs. Which, again, in that weather, they never really had a chance. So I am in lockstep with this GM, is that you let Tua play out this contract and see how he does. And if he doesn't play well, then maybe you go in a different direction. But for me, I think if you pay Tua $55 million or you go beyond that and you make him the highest paid quarterback, that would be a mistake, in my opinion. So I'm kind of in agreement with the GM. But maybe that doesn't end up happening and the Dolphins do pay him. Because the Dolphins do want to keep Tua. And, I hope I'm wrong. Like, I don't want to be right. Like, if Tua goes out there, has a really good year, Dolphins win the playoff game, they lose, in a shootout against, whoever in the second round, and Tua plays well, then, you know what, I was wrong. But, watching Tua against some of these good teams, and especially, like, also Tyreek Hill getting hurt against the Titans last year, he didn't play well in that game. Now, I know you could say that about a lot of people, like, oh, if he didn't have this weapon or this weapon, but you want to surround guys with elite level talent. It's just when they do that, you're like, well, Brock Purdy benefits from, weapons he has. Tua benefits from the weapons he has. But, like, what do? You don't want you want him to surround him with nothing so he can't be successful? So, yeah, I get it, but, yeah, he didn't play well when Tyreek got hurt. So, well, I mean, they did beat the Jets. What did they beat the Jets by the following week? What was it, 31-0? So, the Jets just were not good last year. But, yeah, it's just that's kind of where I'm at with the Tua stuff, is I think it should be a wait-and-see thing with him. I'm not for paying him that big of a contract, because I just don't think he's worth it. Last year he played really well. But like I said, it was, against good teams, Dolphins couldn't beat them. So, and this is a big year for them, and I think they're going to want to prove, the doubters wrong. And they had a lot of injuries last year as well, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So a healthy Dolphins squad, let's see what they could do. Let's see what they do against some of these better teams that they have on their schedule. And let's see if they can get over the hump and win that playoff game. Because I think they can, but I'm not too sure about it. So let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think that Tua should get paid that big of a contract, get paid even more than Trevor Lawrence? Now again, Tua put up better numbers than Trevor Lawrence last year, but I still think Trevor Lawrence is going to be better. I think Trevor Lawrence is better than Tua, but it wasn't like that last year. Tua played better than Trevor Lawrence last year, and Tua made the playoffs. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't think Tua's worth the contract. I think the Dolphins should let it play out, and then you make a decision. But again, who am I to say that? So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. So we're going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we will discuss Bryce Young, talk about some of the things he had to say recently about his rookie season, and that's what we will get into when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers. Just some comments that he made about his rookie season. And, yeah, it was a rough one for him. And, the Panthers, they did a lot to draft him. They gave up a lot of draft capital. They gave up DJ Moore, to get him. And, yeah, it was a rough rookie season. It was. And the Panthers only won 2 games. And one of those games, they beat C.J. Stroud. Like, I know, I think I brought this up yesterday. I just still can't wrap my head around the fact that they beat C.J. Stroud and the Texans. But that did happen. And Bryce Young is looking to bounce back. And the Texans, they lucked out, getting C.J. Stroud, because look at how he is. And, the Texans, they won a division title, and now they got these bigger expectations. So, yeah, it's like the complete opposite over in Houston compared to what it's like in Carolina at the moment. But this is what he had to say. So this is a quote from his father talking about his. He said the rookie season was awful. His father described to ESPN as awful. But yeah, this is what Bryce Young had to say. It's helped me through my whole life. This is because he graduated with a degree in psychology from the University of Alabama, and from that, he talked about how, it's helped me through my whole life. The good, the bad, and different, making sure that myself internally I'm okay. Luckily, I'm very conscious of that my whole life, so I've had a lot of practice compartmentalizing things and trying to have healthy habits. Talked about the offense. It's constructive. If you miss something or do something wrong, it gives you something tangible to say. Let's get our base in order. It's something you could think about and apply. It's been really good for me. And then also you had, Andy Dalton, who's the backup quarterback to Bryce Young. So he said, as my camera's kind of acting up here, so we're just going to have to do a quick little camera fix here. We were doing pretty well, but, it just decides to act up. I'll read the Andy Dalton quote once I fix the camera issue here. Fortunate that I have a backup camera, because if I didn't, you'd be looking at a blank screen. But of course, now when I'm trying to fix it, it doesn't want to work. But that's all right. So okay, yep, we're all good to go. All right. So anyways, Andy Dalton, backup quarterback for the Panthers now. He said it's instilling confidence in him, knowing that he's giving him the keys to this offense. We're going to see Bryce do things he didn't do last year just because of the experience. We're already seeing it right now. And then Bryce Young, the final quote here in the article that I have, I'm far from perfect. We all have our struggles and things, and we have our good and bad days, but it's like any season. It's important during a time when there's a lot going on and a lot of stressful situations, knowing that's a time to make sure I really don't lose sight of things mentally. So it seems like he is in a better place than he was last year, which, is encouraging. And the Panthers, they did go out and they made moves to try to, improve this team and put Bryce Young in a better situation for him to be successful. They went out and tried to improve this offensive line. They got him weapons. They drafted a receiver. They traded for Deontay Johnson. So they also drafted a running back. So I think Bryce Young will have a better season. And Dave Canales did really well with Baker Mayfield last year. So maybe that will help Bryce Young as well. And yeah, he went through a lot. You had, Frank Reich didn't even make it through the season. It just, the Panthers season was a mess. And you kind of want to just throw that out the window. And, if he's better protected, and now you have better weapons in there. I mean, I think he should theoretically have a better season. Now, I don't know how much better, because I still don't look at the Panthers as being a very good football team, but again, they could surprise you. And it's kind of funny because before the season started last year, I just took a look at the NFC South, and I was like, why can't the Panthers win the division? Because the Falcons with their question marks at quarterback, and the Bucks with no more Tom Brady. I didn't know how Baker Mayfield was going to be. I didn't know how the Saints were going to be with Derek Carr. I was like, you know what, maybe the Panthers, maybe they got a shot. But thankfully, I didn't put any money or anything on it. I didn't guarantee anything because the season played out. And I was like, wow, the Panthers are just not good. And now we'll see how they are in 2024. And the division, even with some of the changes, like now Kirk Cousins is the quarterback for the Falcons, who we talked about earlier. I mean, this division's not impossible. Anybody can win that division. Now, I don't know how much better the Panthers are going to... I mean, I still had the Panthers winning about 2 games. I just don't think they're going to be very good. But I could be wrong. And they surprise some people. I mean, I think they do open up against the Saints. So maybe they have a better showing than they did last year in New Orleans when they really just, did not play well there. But, well, they didn't play well really all year. So, they did beat the Falcons last year, so they went 1-5 in the division last year. But, yeah, it's with Bryce Young, people have their complaints, his size. It's just, people are going to have their doubts. And, for Bryce Young, yeah, not every rookie season is going to go the way you hope. I mean, you go back to, Peyton Manning's rookie season. Wasn't great. And then look how he turned out. Now, is Bryce Young going to turn out like Peyton Manning? Probably not. But can he go out there and have a better year too? Yeah. And you look at a team, in the other conference, the Titans. Will Levis had a good debut, but it was kind of hit or miss after that. What did the Titans go out and do? They drafted a tackle. They added more weapons to the offense. They are investing in him, and they're seeing if he can actually, be the guy with more talent around him, and that's what the Panthers are doing. Now, I think the Titans' offense is, right now on paper, is probably a little bit better than the Panthers. I like their receiving core better than the Panthers. The running back room, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I know for the Panthers, Miles Sanders was awful last year. That was not a good signing. But, we'll see. I mean, the Panthers and the Titans, they did invest in their young quarterbacks, and we'll see if they improve in year 2. I mean, I want to see... I mean, Will Levis at least had, Bryce Young had some good games too. I know the Packers defense was awful against them. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see though. But yeah, and I think also having a veteran like Andy Dalton to back him up, I think that's good for him as well. A guy that could just kind of help, bring him along, and hopefully he has like I said, hopefully he has a better year too. That's really all we can hope for, is that he does have a better year too. He has a better year, because if he goes out there and he plays bad again, I mean that is not a good look for the Panthers, because they gave up a lot to get him, and like I said before, you see how C.J. Stroud was playing over in Houston. Like, you could have had him. But then again, C.J. Stroud gets drafted by the Panthers. What kind of season does he have last year? I don't know. Only time will tell. But, yeah, right now, Panthers, they're hoping they didn't make a mistake. I think they still believe it. They still, well, yeah, I mean, they still believe in Bryce Young. It was kind of a mess because you were changing head coaches. It just, it was a mess. So hopefully the improvements they made, the coaching change, hopefully that all pans out and Bryce Young goes out there and he has a good season and you could throw away that rookie year. But it's going to be hard to forget about it. So, but that's pretty much my thoughts on Bryce Young. Let me know what you guys think about what he had to say. Does he have a bounce back season, or is he not the guy in Carolina? Let me know in the comments. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows, like I always say. I did fail to mention that the NBA Finals did conclude. The Celtics won it in 5 games, which, even though the Mavericks blew them out in Game 4, we kind of knew that the Celtics were still going to win it. We were hoping for some more drama. Also, the great Willie Mays passed away. Baseball news, some sad news on that front. One of the greatest players of all time. So just wanted to pay a little bit of respect for him. My heart goes out to him, his family. Just a sad day in the baseball community there. So I'm sure Sam will talk about that on his show. And then you got the Stanley Cup, which is, again, it's hard to transition from something like that and then go into something else. But with the Stanley Cup, the Oilers did win last night, so now it's a 3-2 series. So, now they're going back to Edmonton. So, yeah, that's going to be that's going to be an interesting Game 6. So we'll see if the Oilers can tie the series up when we go to a Game 7. I mean, at least we're getting something out of that championship series because, the finals was a snooze fest. But, yeah, make sure to check out everybody's shows, get their thoughts on all that stuff. With that is all the time that we have for today. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care. Sorry about that. We played the break instead of the outro. I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.